There's an issue here of where we're coming from. The president has heard, as we all have heard, what I call anecdotal reports that certain drugs work. So what he was trying to do and express was the hope that if they might work, let's try and push their usage. I, on the other side, have said, I'm not disagreeing with the fact anecdotally they might work, but my job is to prove definitively from a scientific standpoint that they do work. So I was taking a purely medical scientific standpoint, and the president was trying to bring hope to the people. I think there's this issue of trying to separate the two of us. There isn't fundamentally a difference there. He's coming from it from a hope layperson standpoint.
Okay.
I'm coming from it from a scientific standpoint.
That's the explanation that I think anybody who was being fair-minded would have already known from watching the press conference last week. You had this whole dust-up between President Trump and some NBC reporter over whether Trump was giving a sense of false hope by saying that, we'll see if this combination of chloroquine and azithromycin, which is an antibiotic that Z-Pak, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar. I think Z-Pak is azithromycin. If I'm wrong on that, apologies. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on radio. But this would be a very, very helpful tool. This would be something that would finally make people feel like, all right, we're gonna turn the corner at some point here. We're gonna get to a state where we know we're winning this fight, and if you bring the mortality rate down substantially, you're going to be able to make much more clear-headed, I think, decisions, and much, you're going to have a better understanding of what's feasible, what's not, when we can get back to work. Because right now we don't know what the mortality rate really is, and we don't have a real way to treat this. And putting someone on a ventilator, all that really does is keep them alive. Obviously critical, keep them alive, but it doesn't kill the virus. It just keeps the cycle going of breathing while their system fights off the virus. So having something that would even just give, substantial efficacy here. It doesn't have to cure it the next day, but even if it just prevents, that's why I keep focusing on the mortality aspect of it. I don't think that we're looking to take, chloroquine as, at least my understanding right now is that it's not going to be something you take as a prophylactic against this, even if it shows some efficacy against the disease when people are infected. I think the likelier situation is that you're just going to see this used in acute cases when somebody is infected and they're trying to make sure they keep them alive. They're going to have, the respiratory or the respirator going, but they'll be giving them chloroquine and azithromycin, and hopefully that will be enough to make sure that we have very, very, very few casualties among anybody who catches this. I'm also seeing now, and this is a classic thing, this happened when I went on the Bill Maher show too. I mean, I have people who are actually hoping that I or someone in my family gets COVID-19 just because I'm trying to advocate for a fact-based and reasonable a numbers-based approach to it. Leftists see what I'm saying or hear what I'm saying here on the show, and they, I would never, I'll just tell you this right now, I would never do that. And it's important you remember these things, especially when you're in my business, to separate you from them. I get to go to sleep every night and wake up every morning knowing that I'm a decent, ethical person who cares about other human beings. And even the biggest jerks around, I would help if they, if they were in danger. I would help if they needed it. And I want what's best for all of my fellow Americans and all my fellow human beings when it comes to dealing with this virus. That people think that it's a funny quip to say, hopefully you'll get this, then we won't have to hear from you anymore. And these are blue checks, by the way. These are journos. Yeah, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. The left, it really is, unfortunately, morally rotten and diseased, and that doesn't change just because there's a pandemic. They have adopted beliefs, and they have adopted an approach to other people they disagree with that is hateful and spiteful and disgusting. So, I think last week there was such a shock around how frightening things had gotten, how bad things had gotten, that we had a sense that maybe there would be a little bit more of a bipartisan flavor to this, a little bit more of an all hands on deck from the politicians and from the political class. But that seems to be changing very quickly. That seems to be changing with the day. and just wait until there's an opening. They will pile on to President Trump with everything that they've got because they know that there's power at stake here right now. The Obama administration came in during a financial crisis, and Rahm Emanuel and others, I mean, they were explicit about, Rahm Emanuel was at least, never let a crisis go to waste. And so they turned the financial crisis into an opportunity to leverage the fear and panic among people in this country to get what they wanted. Well, that's really one of the, when you look at what they're going to do now, what the Democrats are going to be up to now, it's going to be quite similar. They're going to leverage this for their own political gain as much as they possibly can. One other point here about tech. And by the way, I know we've talked about this a lot today, but you guys also need to let me know. I mean, team, I want to make this as interactive as I can, and we are. I have been researching. I just got to figure out how to do it, how to set up a voicemail inbox so we can play voicemails on the air about the show. For the show. I also have to note that if you want me to try to find, I mean, there are other news stories that are happening. It just feels like this is such a, so much more central than anything else going on right now that I don't know if you would think it was a bit flippant. It was a little bit off key for me to get into some other things. I mean, you look at any news site right now, though, and it's basically all coronavirus coverage. It's basically all about this issue. There's not really a whole lot else that's being talked about or going on. I mean, there's no sports, so I can't even bring producer Mark in to talk about sports. I'll try to find ways to talk to you about books and about TV shows and other things, but this is where we are right now. This is the world that we're living in. If you would like me to get to a place where we can start maybe in the third hour, just do other kinds of stories, I'll look for some things, find some things. I'm happy to do that. But I want this to be a place where you get information and you hear what's going on. And, we there's a sharing of how we're all feeling right now that goes on. We're about to get into roll call to that end. But also I want this to be a place where you can seek a little bit of a respite from all of this, and maybe just knowing that you're hearing a friendly voice about this, and that, I am still optimistic. I know we will get through this. I know we've been through worse things as a country. But, let me know, team. I am starting work on a history podcast. That is something that I'll be doing. So, there's some things that I'd like to introduce into our show day to day that I want to be more relaxing, more laid back, and everything else. So I'm going to try to do that as well, is what I'm saying. But I also don't want it to be like, why is Buck, telling stories about what it was like back in the day, in New York City, or I don't know, whatever, when we need to be focusing in on the single biggest problem facing humanity right now. So, to that end, I want to try to keep things, focused on what matters, but also make sure that you're not like, oh, Buck, you're really going to talk about coronavirus every day? I mean, guys, I don't know what else there is really that's going to get at least our first hour of the show. I mean, if something changes, that would be great. But yeah, that's where we are. That is the reality of our situation right now, and we need to deal in, as we always try to deal in this reality. It was a bit spooky walking around New York, and don't worry, I wasn't at a party or with a lot of people or anything else. I was walking the dog. But walking around this city and just seeing what it's doing here, our response to this is crippling. I mean, I'm seeing restaurants. I'm walking past places that I've got memories of. I've been out with friends there, been out with my parents, been on dates, bars and restaurants and different stores. And, whether you're in a city or you're out in, a rural area, you always have associations, memories that you bring to bear with certain places, and I'm seeing places and thinking, is it never going to open again? It would seem that's a distinct possibility for a lot of them, and that's really disconcerting because those are people that work there, that's part of their life, and that's how they pay their bills. That's how they build a future for their kids and for their families. So I'm looking for the optimistic side of this as much as I can. And what I find is that, we've been through very difficult times as a country before. We've never really been through this, though. We've never really decided that we were going to engage in extreme measures of this kind to deal with a pandemic. And we don't have a template to work off of. And so when I say we're going to get through this because we've been through a lot of bad things, I'm also very cognizant of we've never been through this. We've never been through a situation like this. And that's really where we are. And that's really the recognition of where we are at this moment in time. And I just hope that I can come to you with good news sooner than later about how things are going right now. I mean, it's a tough time in this country. And how can you escape? I mean, the problem we also have is how can you escape coronavirus when we're all basically under different stages of self-distancing and quarantine? There's no sports going on. There's no gatherings. You're not seeing people. What do we really have to do? Books and media consumption. I actually, for the first time, I tried a puzzle over the weekend, which was interesting. I tried a puzzle. But books and media consumption are the way that is most readily available for us to think about something else, to deal with something else. And unfortunately, the media is completely dominated by this, right? If you look at the news media. So then you've just got to get into Netflix. And I'm pretty sure my Netflix was, the quality of it, the resolution of it was down a little bit. But, like I said, I want to try to do everything I can to bring you into what we need to talk about every day, but also to give us all an escape from it. So I'm working on some ideas. I've got some thoughts, and Facebook.com/Buck Sexton or teambuck@iheartmedia.com to share, if you think there's a kind of segment we should do, if there are things you just want to hear me talking about. I get up, I do this show for 3 hours every day to serve this audience. So let me know how best I can serve this audience during this pandemic. I put that out to all of you. And by serving you, I'll be helping myself out because I want to be in touch with as many of you every day as I possibly can. And this really is, you are my connection to the outside world. That and walking this cute little French bulldog around on the street because, that I'm still allowed to do. And I'm very thankful to have, I got to say, those of us who have a little canine companion around, it's a special thing right now. Dogs are amazing in general, but right now I think a lot of people are looking around saying, wow, it's really, or a cat, or, if you're into birds or lizards or whatever, whatever kind of pet you've got, I think now is a particularly helpful time for us to have that companionship. Let's bring in the wisdom of the penalty box. We got Mark. I wanted you all to hear from him because we haven't been able to talk to him in a little while. Producer Mark.
Hello.
How are you doing, buddy? You're work from home now, too.
Yeah, I finally got equipment, so you now can hear me. I know everyone was very
excited.
much missing me.
They were like, what is going on? It's not going to return to normal. We're not going to be okay unless producer Mark is around.
Yeah, who's going to yell at Buck for, doing stupid stuff?
Correct. Exactly. There needs to be like an ombudsman for the people, for the team. So how'd you spend? Tell us just a little bit, because I think this is, we all need to share because we don't get to see each other. This is water cooler talk now because no one can actually go to water coolers because there's other people around them. How do you spend your weekend?
Not doing much. I was glad to finally see my wife since she's back and forth from Long Island, so that was nice. But pretty much staying inside. What else can you do when you're quarantined and not allowed to go anywhere?
Yeah, what'd you watch?
I didn't. Let's see. We watched Manifest. That's a good show. That's a show we watched together.
What's that about?
It's about this plane. It's kind of like Lost. It's about this plane that disappeared coming back from Jamaica and then reappeared 5 years later and just kind of landed as if nothing happened. And it's like a mystery show. Where was the plane?
Oh, that sounds like a nice, for him and for her kind of a show. Were you a Lost person, by the way? I bailed after season 3. It was a very sound decision.
I'm not going to bail on Manifest just yet. It's actually kept me intrigued the whole time. I'm shocked.
No, it might be great. I'm just saying, for those that watch Lost all the way to the end, Because I made the decision. I was like, there's no way they can make this make sense. It's just gotten too convoluted and too weird. And everyone I knew who watched it all the way through, some enjoyed it and good for them, and I'm happy. But everyone who watched it all the way through turned around and was like, yeah, they kind of just like mailed it in at the end. I mean, it was, the whole thing didn't really make sense. So
I was forced to watch, I think, the pilot and maybe another episode in a class in college, and it didn't really intrigue me, so I never bothered to watch more.
What do you think? I mean, there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal now. What to do when you're sheltering in place? What do you want to do? Are you like taking up any hobbies or anything? Because man, we're gonna have more time on our hands at home than we have in a long time.
No, I'm just playing more video games and eating a lot more. All I do is eat. I feel like I'm hungry every 10 minutes.
I'm really worried. I said that Coronabod may be a thing, but it's really not Coronabod. It's gonna be quarantine bod.
No.
That's going to end up happening.
Well, people are trying to change that with the Instagram challenges. I don't know if you've seen these, the C10, do 10 push-ups and other stuff like that.
I haven't seen that, but I probably should because right now, I don't know. It's just really tough to lie down on your living room floor because there's also, I don't live in a house, so I got very limited space, limited room. It's very tough to lie down on your living room floor and, push yourself to do like 100 burpees at a time. I mean, burpees have you ever done burpees are the worst thing in the world.
They're terrible.
Yeah. So,
why would you want to do them in the comfort of your own home?
Yeah, I mean, also you're in quarantine. It's so easy to tell yourself, okay, I'm stress eating a little bit, but it's a stressful situation.
Yeah. I mean, I will admit to getting an Instacart delivery with a couple pints of Ben & Jerry's. I
discovered a kind of ice cream called Not a Moo, which has coconut. I discovered a kind of ice cream that is absolutely delicious. That
sounds
is
very
coconut
bougie.
Instead of milk. Yes, I got to tell you, it's because you know why? They didn't have the actual ice cream I wanted, and I'm usually anybody that goes for like a substitute meat or substitute ice cream is just destined for disappointment. But this Not a Moo cookies and cream was amazing, and it's coconut instead of milk, like coconut milk. Yeah,
I mean, I've had Halo Top before. It's not dairy-free.
People like that.
Good, yeah.
I can't. I don't really do the Halo Top, but I've heard people have. All right, by the way, are you gonna producer Mark? Maybe you should take up because I know Mrs. Mark, also known as Ariel, is not around that much right now at home. Maybe on the weekends, right during the week she's out in LI. So, which is Long Island for those who aren't from the New York area, which is basically its own state, but it's technically a part of New York, but it's a huge thing. Maybe you should take up a little cooking, and you could come on the show, and I could help walk you through some of this stuff.
Sure. I just need ingredients to cook. It's kind of hard to get stuff right now, Buck.
Are you really? Are the grocery stores? Because the grocery stores in New York, they're empty. Because the only thing that's empty, you can't get hand sanitizer, you can't get paper towel.
So I don't have a car during the week, so I can't go
or
myself.
Toilet paper. Okay.
I'm doing Instacart or some sort of delivery service.
Yeah, everybody wants home delivery.
The guy will be coming, and he'll send me pictures of the pasta aisle, for example, completely empty.
Yeah, no, pasta you can't get, canned food you can't get. It's crazy out there. All right, everybody, it's where we get to hear your thoughts on everything that is going on here for Roll Call, and let's get to it, shall we? I do very much appreciate those of you who are writing in. It is, man, it adds a layer of normalcy to my day that I really look forward to. I mean, I always look forward to it, but all right, here we go. Brett. Hey, Buck, as terrible as everything is here in the States, I hope no one forgets about the troops and sailors overseas. The USS Dwight Eisenhower and Harry Truman have been deployed and had all port calls canceled since mid-February until who knows when. Port calls keep a crew sane, and the morale hit of no port calls has to be terrible for those ships and all of the deployed ships. Brett, really good point, man. I hear you. That is being stuck on ship under these kinds of circumstances, not able to go ashore. It is, I'm sure it's going to be a terrible strain on our sailors and airmen and people who are out there as part of our surface naval warfare operations around the world. And oh my gosh, surface, forget surface, under the surface too, right? Submarines. Yeah, that's going to be tough. So Brett, thank you and my heart goes out to all those who are doing their duty for us abroad under these circumstances. Obviously people who are deployed are going to be as we all are, but they're going to be they're deployed, worried about family members, worried about what's going to happen back home. So, but they've got to keep us safe still. I mean, I worry, and I don't mean to go down a negative path here. It's negative enough out there in the world right now, but I worry about what if something else hits us right now? What if we find ourselves in a circumstance where someone tries to one of our now I know you'd say people all over the world, well, yeah, what about terrorist groups and non-state actors, right? Let's just hope things get better. Brian, gents, thanks for the commentary on extra tipping right now. More of us need to do it. My home in rural PA has trash pickup outside once a week. The normally two-man crew was operating by himself yesterday, driving and getting out at every house in the neighborhood. Made it a point to go thank him and gave him some cash. Keep the trash guys happy. When trash pickup stops moving, we got problems. Oh, Brian, that's absolutely true. It's absolutely the case. We should do everything we can to show support for those who are still out there doing their jobs, and that means if you can throw them some extra cash, do. It helps them able to take care of their families. It also, there's a self-interest, which we should be explicit about here. I really appreciate and want those who are working in all those jobs we've talked about, just keeping stuff going, keeping food on the shelves, lights on, keeping packages moving. Those people are essential right now, and I think they're often in our society underappreciated. And we know right now we appreciate them. So yes, do what you can to give some extra cash to folks who can use it, and try to be as supportive as possible as you can to people who are doing the things that are necessary to keep life going. Melissa, greetings. Thank you for advising everyone to follow the current restrictions. 10 years ago, I was a healthy mother with a 3-month-old baby. I was exposed to H1N1 at church or our older kids' school. I got H1N1 and it developed into a serious pneumonia and nearly killed me before my sister and husband got me to the hospital. It took me 2 years to recover, and I still have damaged lungs. I was lucky. My friend, a very healthy outdoors woman who lives out west, got H1N1 and pneumonia and spent a month in ICU on a ventilator. She still has severely damaged lungs and nerve damage. It was a miracle she recovered. Please keep urging people to think before they expose others. The current advice isn't perfect, but it's worth a grace period before we revert to healthy skepticism. Yeah, Melissa, I think that that's where I've been. I think that the 15 days, we comply with the 15 days, but they've been saying it's 15 days, I assume, because after 15 days they're going to let people start going back to work and start doing their jobs again, or else why is it just the 15 days? And this is what the what comes next part of this conversation, I think, is where I'm trying to focus right now, because we know what we're supposed to do in the meantime. We're supposed to be on lockdown and stay home. Well, what comes next? Amy, thank you. I'm one of the ones who keeps showing up to work. I do food deliveries and work in a kitchen that makes healthy, organic food for home delivery. I feel such a great sense of purpose in what I do all the time, but your words of encouragement have meant so much to me. Well, Amy, thank you for doing what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, every time now, I can get groceries, but I've been ordering out. It's not good for my waistline, but who cares? I've been ordering out more than I usually do because there aren't that many businesses, even in New York, that are still doing takeout and delivery. The number dwindles every day. So I want to try to give them money, keep myself fed, obviously. And the people that are still doing that, and also it's the sustenance, it's the food, it's making sure that we don't have, people that are hungry in addition to all the other problems we have right now, but it's also the lessening of the anxiety and the sense of normalcy that comes from having food like your delivery service brought to people. We need this stuff. We need this right now. Kathleen, now that we're cooped up, can you give out a list of reading recommendations? All right, Kathleen, you know what I will do right now, actually? Just because we're here, we're in roll call, and I don't want to keep saying, oh, I will do this, and oh, I will do that, because then OSS and Stoats and some of the others will yell at me, as they're right to do sometimes, because it's not that I ever don't want to do what I say. I just get delayed with things because I'm trying very hard. I'm trying to see if I can find my Kindle list, because that would be the single best. Or here, I can even just pull it up. I can pull it up on my phone. I'll do that. So you want to know things that I recommend you read right now? If you're just looking for, here we go, team. Buck is going to pull a whole bunch from the library, and here's what we got. I've mentioned recently Billion Dollar Whale by Tom Wright and Bradley Hope. The Seawolves, A History of the Vikings, very good. Endurance by Alfred Lansing. The 100-Year Marathon by Michael Pillsbury. Let's see. The Lost City of the Monkey God by Douglas Prest. Let's see what else we have here. Justice on Trial, my friend Molly Hemingway. Darwin's Doubt, Stephen Meyer. Bad Blood, John Carreyrou. Salt, Mark Kurlansky. Let's see. I'm trying to skip past the overly academic ones. Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind, Yuval Noah Harari. And let's see what else we have here. I think that's a pretty good. Outlaw Platoon by my friend Sean Parnell. Escape from Camp 14. That's pretty depressing, though. What else do we have here? A lot of this is stuff that I read for work. You know, I don't think a lot of you are really going to get into Eugenics and Other Evils by G.K. Chesterton, although maybe. If you've never read Bram Stoker's Dracula, read the novel. It's amazing. Let's see what else we have in the list here. I told you 1984 Animal Farm, very, very good. Whittaker Chambers, Witness, great book. Read that one. Six Frigates, if you want some military history. Ian Toll, fantastic book. Adrian Goldsworthy, How Rome Fell. Might be a little scary to read right now, but you could definitely do that one. If you've never read it before, Friedrich Hayek, The Road to Serfdom. It's a little dense, but it's good. Chris Kyle, American Sniper. Certainly worth it if you've never read that one. What else do I have in here? Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky. If you've never read that one, definitely read that one. The New Nobility, the restoration of Russia's state security and the enduring legacy of the KGB. Very, very good. And yeah, there you go. So there's The Persian Puzzle, Kenneth Pollock. The Power Broker, Robert Caro. The Second World Wars by Victor Davis Hanson. All great books. All right, so I gave you, those of you, if you're listening to this on radio, go back and grab this part. First of all, you should be subscribed, hopefully, to the podcast anyway. But I just gave you, those are enough books. Those will last you months. Okay, those are all really, really good books. So now I've at least given you that list. And if there's other lists, I'll post them. But so now I've done what I said I would do. I've given you a list of books to check out, books to read. So there you go. Let's see what we have here now. I got a little bit, I got a little bit caught up in that. And now I've got to go back into more roll call. All right, now we've got Sean. Hey, Buck, I've been a fan since the Blaze days and love the podcast. Keep up the great work. I'm one of those who thinks this virus is an accidental leak from the bioweapons lab in Wuhan. It just seems too coincidental. I would probably think otherwise if the Chinese had not reacted like they did by welding people in apartment buildings, withholding details on the strain, etc. I may have missed it, but I haven't heard you debunk this theory at length. I would love to hear CIA analyst Buck in action during this. Sean, I don't look. The truth is, one of the first, being any kind of analyst, but certainly being a national security analyst, if you're going to be a good one, you got to admit what you don't know. And I don't have any special insight or information about this bioweapons lab and the Institute of Virology in Wuhan, other than it's 10 miles from this wet market. But wet markets, remember, have been a site for zoonotical transmission from one animal to another for a long time. That's resulted in other pandemics, SARS. And for those who are wondering, about the naming of these things, even SARS, an acronym, was considered offensive for a while in Hong Kong because SARS, Hong Kong is called the Special Administrative Region, SAR. And so they didn't like that the disease was being called SARS because it had its outbreak in Asia. So yeah, I just don't have a good answer for you, my friend. I don't think it was look. It's not an intentional outbreak. That I do think we have to put aside. But we'll see. In terms of whether it broke out of that lab accidentally, could be. I don't think so, but I can't tell you no. They've lost viruses before. That's established. That's fact. So how do we know that this one didn't? Think of how much. Now you start to crunch the numbers. How many wet markets operate in China? How much of that is, how many times does that happen? How many people interact with that on a daily basis? And now all of a sudden this, you could say the numbers indicate that eventually this would happen in one of these wet markets. Okay, but you could also say, well, this has been going on for years, millions and millions of times, and this hasn't happened. So why did it happen now? Two ways to look at it. David, Buck, I was in Israel during the Gulf War in 1991 of January, and literally the entire country was on lockdown for a month. No cars on the road, nothing. They came out all right. Just spreading a little hope out there to all those who worry about this destroying our economy. It won't. Israel actually emerged stronger, and they have nearly as strong an economy as we do now. Shields high. Well, David, the thing about that was everybody... Now, first of all, thank you for giving us some optimism here. It's really appreciated. Everyone looking at this now could say, well, hold on a second. If we knew as a country that we were going to be locked down for a finite period of time and that we were fighting a human enemy, I think we could handle that. Right now, what we're dealing with is the uncertainty of the duration of the lockdown, and that has impact on the economy in ways that it's very hard to predict, very hard to understand where this all goes. Lori, Texas has no state income tax, but really high property tax. Love your show. Interesting to hear about life in big cities during these unusual times. Well, thank you, Lori. Yeah, I knew that about Texas, so I hadn't brought it up recently. I know they have no state income tax, but they got high property taxes. But still, it would be nice to avoid that state income tax. Doug, new to your show, but not your message. I'm a 47-year-old country boy from Alabama trying to get myself and my mother, who is 76, through coronavirus meltdown. Truth be told, she's in better shape than I am. Our parents are tough cookies indeed. My father has gone on to his great reward, but his memory is fresh in my mind. He taught me to hunt, grow food, and use my common sense. I hope you make it through all the craziness in the Big Apple up there. I say rosaries for us all. Shields up. God bless. Doug, thank you, man. Thank you for just writing in a kind message of solidarity with the rest of the team, with me. And, God bless you and your mom. And I'm sure, you guys are going to make it through just fine. And we need to rally to each other so much right now. And I'm a huge believer in that. Brandon, wanted to remind you about us longshoremen, keeping the trade goods coming and going out here. Thanks for all you do, Buck. Yeah, absolutely, Brandon. I can't think of all the jobs, or rather, extemporaneously, I wouldn't be able to name all the jobs that are right now keeping us alive, basically keeping us going. But absolutely, longshoremen, anybody who's involved in the movement of goods and whatever services are still out there right now, everyone who's involved in making sure there's product in the stores, food on the shelves, milk in the dairy aisle, bread in the bread aisle, whatever. They're doing a tremendous service for all of us because they could stay home too, right? They could be like, look, I know I need the paycheck, but I'm going to stay home for a few weeks and just see what goes on. Imagine if everybody who worked in a grocery store did that right now. I don't want to be exposed to the virus. I don't want any risk. Okay. That would be really scary for all the rest of us. So everybody out there, longshoremen, truckers, UPS drivers, grocery store clerks, people that are showing up, as essential personnel for the utility companies, making sure the water, trash, garbage men, trash collection, garbage men, all these different roles, so important to us right now. And, you guys are, and gals, do I have to say that, or can I just say you guys and I'm not going to get in trouble? But, you folks are keeping this country going when we really need you to keep us going, and we all greatly appreciate it. That's going to be the show for today, everybody. I'm really hoping tomorrow, the president will have a press conference. We'll have some good news to share, and that would be really nice. Please do give me your thoughts on what else you want to hear day in and day out here, because we're going to be in this for certainly a while, and I want you to get the most out of this show as you possibly can. So if you want me to just totally divert from coronavirus entirely for the third hour, other than roll call, speak out, let me know. I'm here to serve all of you. God bless, team. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. Talk to you tomorrow. Shields high.